Hey, RFK Jr., flock off. And you too, Dr. Oz. Okay, friends, have you heard about this story? We're going to break it down, but first, do you have any thoughts about why these Americans are sticking their beaks in where they don't belong? I'm going to let you know my thoughts later in the video, but feel free to put yours into the comments below. I'm Steve Sandford. You're watching Dominion Report. Okay, if you haven't heard, back in December, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, ordered that a herd of about 400 ostriches be culled after 2 dead birds tested positive for avian flu. The CFIA has a blanket stamping out policy for flocks that have showed any kind of infection. This keeps the disease from spreading to other farms and other food supplies. In some cases, avian flu can transfer to mammals and in rare cases even to humans. These ostriches are on a farm in the British Columbia interior. However, this scenario has, for reasons to be discussed, attracted international attention. Before we get to all of that, let's just add some context. Based on available data, since 2021 and the onset of H5N1, which is a particularly pathogenic avian influenza, the CFIA has ordered between 7 million and 14 million birds culled each year in Canada. This strain has also been responsible for decimating the US chicken farms, which is actually what caused tremendous spike in egg prices over the last year in the United States. Thankfully, in Canada, we were protected from that. Further, I'll just add this note about food-borne illnesses statistics. About 10% of Canadians reportedly experience food-borne illnesses every year, and in the United States, it's about 15%. Despite being exceptionally busy, one would expect, in his new role as Secretary of Health and Human Services, for a country of 340 million people, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has decided that he wants to save the Canadian ostriches. Kennedy posted a public letter to a social media website claiming that he had met with the president of the CFIA and had requested that the herd not be culled. Meanwhile, Heath MacDonald, Canadian Minister for Agriculture, said that he sympathizes with the farmers, but that it's important to take a look at the broader context of combating avian flu. When asked about Kennedy's letter, MacDonald added that it's better to have a conversation than to communicate via social media posts. Dr. Mehmet Oz, former television personality and now administrator for the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, has also jumped into the fray, offering to take the ostriches to his ranch in Florida. Okay, I have questions. First, why are Americans even getting involved? Stay in your lane, people. We have a very robust, effective, and non-partisan food inspection agency who, according to the statistics, appear to keep our food supply more safe than the American food supply, and who also have kept our egg industry better protected from avian flu. Second, why is RFK Jr. involved? He is the Secretary of Health and Human Services, not Secretary of Health and Ostrich Services. If any American agency were to be involved, I would have thought it would be the U.S. Department of Agriculture or perhaps the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. But even then, I would suggest that their job is to protect the U.S. food supply, not ours. Okay, third question. With millions and millions of birds being culled due to avian flu every year in Canada, why did they pick the one scenario involving the cute and fluffy birds? I'll just let you think about that for a second. Okay, so I have a theory. Kennedy learned about this issue from US billionaire John Catsimatidis. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Catsimatidis owns a New York radio station and also regularly hosts Kennedy on a talk radio show on that very radio station. He told Kennedy on air that the birds are being killed because of corruption and pharmaceutical companies, because that makes sense. Kennedy agreed and called the decision a huge mistake. Catsimatidis had previously learned about this from a fringe website that has a history of pushing against COVID-19 related public policy. And that, my friends, is a roundabout way to tell you that this pushback originated from the anti-vax conspiracy community. I would expect that this attempted interference is just one small part of a broader campaign to sow distrust in Canadian institutions, increase the political polarity of Canadian citizens, and ultimately generate an environment for a more populist government to become elected in Canada. Side note, I have a video explaining why populism kills democracy, and I'll put a link to that below in the comments. Now, why do I say this? I say this because we saw the exact same thing happen to the United States over the past decade. Those who have successfully achieved that there and who are now sitting in positions of power or have willing accomplices in positions of power are using that power to interfere in other democratic countries in this manner. A few months ago, we saw US Vice President J.D. Vance speak to European countries about freedom of speech, claiming that their governments were suppressing the speech of their citizens. Now, never mind the hypocrisy that was happening here with the actual free speech suppression that the Trump-Vance administration are partaking in domestically. These outright lies about European countries were made to stir up anti-government sentiment in those countries. When I read about that happening, I actually wondered when we would see a visible example of that disinformation campaign here in Canada. It's important that we recognize the bigger picture here. Arguing amongst ourselves about whether 400 birds should be culled or spared, or about whether avian flu is a pharmaceutical company conspiracy or not, is exactly what they want us to do. They want to divide us. They want to distract us. They want to assist their populist counterparts to take power in Canada. And this ostrich discussion is just one tiny cog in that wheel. Prepare yourselves for an onslaught of misinformation on numerous topics. And one of those, of course, will be Alberta separation. In fact, it's already happening. We've seen willing accomplices, high-profile Canadians, already assisting in this process. When I mention elbows up, this is the kind of thing that we as Canadians need to be aware of and to defend against. This is not a partisan issue. This is an existential one. Our truth is literally under attack, and we know from the example to the south of us what that can lead to. We have lots more to talk about on this issue, and if you don't want to miss that, go ahead and subscribe for more straight talk on issues important to Canadians. In the meantime, stay calm, stay strong, and elbows up.